American Psycho is an adaptation of a novel written by Bret Easton Ellis. I believe it is one of the best novel-to-film adaptations I have ever seen. It is definitely one of my favorites, as I believe it captures the essence of the novel so well. It is a satirical, psychological thriller that's main goal is to expose how shallow and vain the people of New York City can be, and how it's so easy to have a psychopath hidden amongst them without anyone taking much notice at all, because they're so wrapped up in themselves. I am going to explain to you how the mise-en-scene, sound, and the camera angles and movement all give this film the perfect cinematic experience it has. Just like in the novel, we are introduced to a narrator that I would consider incredibly unreliable, especially as throughout the film he becomes more and more psychotic to the point that it doesn't even seem that he believes what is happening to himself. This movie truly engrosses us in the mind of the wildly handsome and charismatic antagonist who is also our narrator. His name is Patrick Bateman, and he is as vain as they come. In Armani suits and a charismatic speech about the world of music, he never stops talking, and you can tell from the start how much he loves himself and thinks he's better than everyone else, both in intellect and in opinion of style. Throughout the film, we can hear Patrick narrate a lot of his twisted thoughts to us regarding his feelings about murdering people and descriptions of his surroundings, which are always described in great detail in a very shallow manner. This is a perfect example of non-diegetic sound in a film, as these are things that only the watcher can hear and not the people within the film. Right off the bat, we are mesmerized by the cinematography and aesthetic of American Psycho. Even the introductory credits are beautiful, as the background is white and there's red blood dripping down the screen with the black names of the actors popping. And then we right away enter a very fancy-looking restaurant with waiters that look like butlers and people in designer clothing, and everyone's plates are full of food that looks beautiful but unappealing. The background of the restaurant is also very light, with everyone's clothing and food being very bright. Every scene in this movie is like a piece of art with contrasting colors and camera movements that almost make the scenes dance across the screen. One scene that really stood out to me was when the director used a perfectly uniform long shot to show us Patrick's closet of suits that were also uniformly and perfectly lined up to match the style of the shot. One of my favorite scenes in the movie that perfectly depicts Patrick's love of himself and his vanity is what I would call the bathroom routine scene. Patrick is seen peeling a face mask off his face while passionately describing the products he uses in his morning routine as the camera pans across the screen to different products being used after it pans from the top of the screen to the bottom as he slowly removes the mask. We are also being told how expensive all these products are and why they are so important to his routine. The scene so perfectly rolls into the next, where we see him exercising in his perfectly white and clean apartment while he explains to us what he does for exercise in great detail, as always. Another perfect scene that matches the general mise-en-scene style in this film is when all the men in Patrick's office are having a meeting and Patrick is bragging about his new business card that he is so proud of. It is a plain white card that is on a special type of paper and has special lettering that no one else would understand the importance of, but all these men are completely mesmerized, and in fact, they all pull out their business cards to compete with him, and he is immediately infuriated by how much nicer his fellow coworker Paul Allen's business card looks. I would say that the mise-en-scene in the film slowly becomes chaotic as Patrick appears to be losing his sanity. The first scene that makes us question what we are seeing would be when Patrick goes to take out money at a bank machine and it tells him to feed it a stray cat. Of course, there's one directly at his feet. An old woman sees him and calls him out, and Patrick immediately shoots her, which causes a police car to spot him and turn its siren on. Patrick decides to start running away, which causes a full-blown police chase, which would deserve the term, that escalated quickly. There are police everywhere, and they have blocked him in, and he starts shooting at them and causes police cars to explode in a ridiculous action movie type manner that does not seem realistic whatsoever, and manages to get away again, where he runs into a corporate building that looks like his own place of work and realizes it's the wrong building, so he shoots everyone in sight and goes running off into another corporate building, which ends up being his own workplace. Surprisingly, he formally signs in while erratically looking at the doorman and runs up to his office, where he peers out the window and sees helicopters and a crazy big police scene out his window. This causes him to call his lawyer, where he admits every single murder he has committed throughout the film in great detail and admits he is not doing all right and that they should meet for lunch tomorrow. Patrick meets him for lunch, but the lawyer just laughs and says it was a great joke, not even realizing that he is Patrick. He thinks he is someone else who imitated him as a joke, and even calls Patrick a weak coward to Patrick as he thinks he is someone else. And no matter how much he tries to convince him, he doesn't believe him until the lawyer sternly looks at Patrick and tells him it's not possible any of this could have happened because Paul Allen had lunch with him twice last week. This confuses Patrick and makes him completely erratic, and throughout the end of the movie, he goes on with his regular vain life and everyone around him seemingly not knowing or caring what's going on, and it ends with us in his thoughts admitting his vanity and his realization of his own misery and his pain that he wants to inflict on everyone around him, and he wants no one to escape him ever. He ends up saying at the very end of the movie, "This confession means nothing," which in my opinion is a perfect line to end this movie's theme of vanity and emptiness.